Hello everybody, my name's Ragnar Barnsby from Hero IT Support, and today I want to do a quick talk through Microsoft Teams. Now the COVID-19 crisis has forced a lot of people who wouldn't normally work from home to now have to work from home, and that's put a strain on remote teams as well. One piece of software designed to fix this problem is Microsoft Teams, which comes as part of your Office 365 subscription. Today we'll do a quick walkthrough for people who perhaps have never used Microsoft Teams before, or people who are now using it just to a very basic level, to try and get you some best practices to help improve that remote communication and remote collaboration, as well as ideally help remove that sense of isolation now everybody's being forced to work remotely. So if you've never used Teams before, you can get there very easily by going to teams.microsoft.com. Now when you do get there, Microsoft will probably try and push you to use the local desktop version of the Teams application, so that's what we'll use in this example, but just so you know, you can access it in the browser if you want to. So this is the desktop client, and you can see exactly the same as the browser-based one. Here, this is a demo Teams account that I've set up just for this example, and you can see we've got 3 different teams. Now, when you're first getting started, you might want to think about initially what teams do you actually want to have. So here we've got a kind of Hero IT Support one that kind of came with. I've created one for accounts, obviously most businesses may have. And then we've got operations. Now I've called it operations. For us, that might be technical. For you, it'd be for whatever your business operations actually is. When you're thinking about teams, you better think about the size of your business and the number of people in each team. So for us, it wouldn't be very helpful for accounts to get constantly bombarded by the large amount of chatter that is in the technical team. So obviously we would separate technical out. Accounts can have their own team and they can talk about account stuff inside there, but they really don't want to know about the technical stuff that's going on. Same thing with the text, they don't really need to be floating with each other. Now you can have them be members of both teams so they can drop in and out, but really we're talking about team meetings and stuff like that. To create a new team, I'll just show you very quickly, we can just click down the bottom and then go to create a team. You're probably going to build from scratch. Most people will choose private, so that means that there's going to be an owner of the team that gets to choose who can join. So you can have multiple owners, so the actual business owner could be an owner, and then heads of department could be owners, so they can manage who's allowed in their team and who's not. So we can give the team a name, we'll just call this team test. And create it. Once it's been made, we then get to add people to it. So for example, let's add Clarence again. He can be a member of our team. There we are. So we've now got a lovely new team here. Say later on I wanted to add more people to that team. Maybe I just add a minimum amount of people to get me started, and now I want to come back and add more people. So we can go to Manage Team. Here we can see that I'm an owner, and Clarence, we added him as just a member. So maybe Clarence is the team leader here, so we're going to make him an owner very quickly. And then we can go to Add Member, and we can maybe add Victor as a new member. So here you can get teams started, you can test it out with your senior management team, and then once you're happy with your teams, you can then start adding in the other users, and of course you can remove them if you don't want to be members of the team as well. If you think it's all gone horribly wrong and you want to get rid of your team, you can of course just delete the team and then you're back where you started. So one thing that we need to cover first is actually the separate chat system. So what we're looking at here at the moment is obviously we've got the operations team, and then we've got the general channel, and within the general channel we're looking at this posts tab, and we have obviously got posts here. But there is a completely separate chat system that I just want to talk about first. So we go over to chat, and we can see we've got recent chats, and then we've got contacts here. So if I click on Clarence, I can send just him a message. You can see I have done, hello Clarence. But I can also add other people to it. So we can come over here and we can add Victor, and we can add Roger, and we can add them both. And now we can see at the top that we're chatting with Clarence, Roger and Victor. So that's great. So we can send them messages, no problem. And you can also do video calls, and you can do screen sharing and stuff like that. And this is pretty good, but it's not actually what I'm going to recommend you do. Most of the time we like our chat to actually be inside the Teams, and we find the video settings and the video meetings much better inside Teams, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about next. So let's take a look at the Teams video chat. So let's just remind ourselves quickly who's a member of this team. So we've got me as the owner, and then we've got Roger, Victor and Clarence. And Clarence is who we're going to be working with today, but you can just imagine that we had all the others joining in as well. So go back to the general, go back to our post tab here, and basically I can just kick off a video meeting at any point by doing this. So there you are, there's the webcam again, you can see me again, and I can click Meet Now. Lovely. So I'm now in the meeting. We can see that other people are not in the meeting. These are just suggestions. I can do a few things here which are worth noting. So I can blur my background. So this is going to be important. A lot of people working from home might be working from a bedroom or a lounge. They may not want to reveal their entire house to their work colleagues. I know I don't have a particularly exciting background to blur, but you just have to trust me, this feature is pretty good. So what it's actually done is it's blurred out most of the background. You see the desk was here. But it's I can turn the blurring off again. So you got a nice hard edge. You can easily see that desk. We'll blur it again, and it's pretty much gone. So this is actually kind of cutting me out of the video, and then it's blurring everything else that isn't me. And if you move around, it does actually follow you pretty well, and that's pretty good. So if you are going to be using Teams in a kind of more private location, that is a great feature to use, and something that stops a lot of stuff from worrying. And you can, if you're joining a meeting, you can actually turn the blurring on before you join the meeting, so you don't have to worry about having to kind of quickly turn the blurring on afterwards. Microsoft have thought of that one. Okay, so this meeting is better because actually what's going to happen is this meeting is going to stay up. So imagine you've got a team, they're working remotely, then the phone goes, somebody has to go grab a phone call, they're going to want to leave that because you're not going to want to listen in on that phone call necessarily, and then they're going to want to rejoin later, and that's what this does. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to invite Clarence to join our meeting, and then I'm going to jump over to, this is Clarence's computer here. So you can see here we've got this video icon that tells us that a meeting is ongoing. So imagine it's 8:30, 9 o'clock, everyone's just got in, you want to have that meeting for the day to get your team started. Well, somebody hosts up a meeting, everybody else, when they get there, can come here to this channel and then join that meeting. So we are going to get a bit of feedback, so let me just turn that off. And we can click join the meeting. By the way, if you don't see the blurring setting, it may just be that your processor is very old and actually doesn't have the capacity to do that. So there's a bit of lag here, and that is because we are looking at a remote desktop connection that's then looking at this video feed. Let's shrink Clarence down. Okay, so this is back to my computer, and as you can see, this is our lovely representation of Clarence. So Clarence has joined the meeting. Lovely. If I now need to go for some reason, I can hang up. So perhaps I need to go make that phone call. Once my phone call's finished, you can see this meeting is sort of still ongoing, so I can rejoin the meeting. You see I've got the blur background option because I do have a new enough processor on this computer, so I will, let's turn blur on to begin with just to show that we can do that. And I can join the meeting with the blur already on. And now we're back in the meeting. So this is really good if you've got a team and you want to have that team chat, you want to kind of have a bit of banter maybe, that you've got a team work together, you want to keep that communication going, even though everybody's working remotely. It's something that lets people drop out and then come back in, so they can take a phone call or take a private meeting or whatever, then come back, and you can keep this basically running the whole day. You've got the privacy with the blurred background. When we first started doing this, I think a lot of people did worry that it would be kind of invasive. Now actually they just love it because they've been sitting at home for however long and they really just miss human contact, and this is basically the closest thing you can get to some sort of human contact and some sort of human interaction. So we actually keep this running all day long, and we're always talking on it and just dropping in and out, and that's what I recommend you guys do for yours. There's a few other things you can do here. So you can have a meeting chat. So the meeting chat's pretty good, but again, we just tend to actually keep it in that post section if people are chatting about something, and that's because the kind of thing we're doing, somebody can throw up an issue there and then you can reply to those different posts, and it's just a better way of organizing it for us. You can do meeting notes on here as well, so show meeting notes. Bear in mind with meeting notes, those are global, so if you write something mean on the meeting notes, everybody is going to see it, so just be nice. It's always nice to be nice. So next, let's talk about sharing screens and advanced features there. So there's going to be plenty of people who are not loving the idea of being on full screen like this all day long. That's not how it's going to be, it's the good news. So let's just remind ourselves of what we're both looking at. So let's check out Clarence's machine. So Clarence, he's looking at me, and we've got a little picture down here of himself. And if there were other people in the call, those would be stacked up and you would see the other members of the team. Going back to my computer, I'm looking at Clarence, and I can see myself down in the bottom right hand corner as well. So we can do something a bit more useful than that. So screen sharing lets us share something that we can all see and all talk about and communicate over. So for just an example, we're going to throw up Bitcoin versus the US dollar here. So this is a graph of the value of Bitcoin over time, essentially. Now we can do this. We can share control. Different people can take control of this machine and move it around and do things. So for us with the ticketing system, if somebody wants help with something or they want to talk about something together, they can take control and start showing it. And that is all very useful. Now there might be a few issues with allowing somebody to remote control your computer and operating this way. So what we actually do is we use a utility computer that we actually remote onto. So we remote onto a computer in the office and we use that computer to kick off the meeting and share the screen. Though you can switch whose screen you're sharing, we basically just use that utility machine. So that means that anyone can take over that utility machine, anyone can be in charge of it, anyone can drive, because it really doesn't matter because it's just a sort of a bog standard utility machine that's in the office. It's not actually the personal or private machine of anybody that works for the company. So for that to work well, we actually create a utility user, so a fake user in Office 365 that we can add to our teams. The disadvantage on that is that you do have to license it, but the license cost is only relatively small, like a few pounds a month. So what you'll want to do is obviously come back to your team, go to manage your team, add a new member, and then just add the name of whatever utility name you come up with for your utility user. Then they can be a member of the team and then they can start off those meetings. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of how you can all stay in touch and communicate as a team. The next problem you're going to have is how do you access your files? Well, fortunately Teams takes care of that as well. So here we're back in the operations team, looking at the general channel. We're looking at the post tab at the moment, but the next tab along is the files tab. So currently there are no files in here, but we can just quickly make a new file. I'm going to make it our test Word document. So it's going to open it up in the kind of browser based, it's actually within the app, but it's the browser based version of Word. Some people might be completely fine with that, other people might not love it. It saves automatically, which is a little bit weird, so every time you're making a change it is doing saves for you. This library here is actually using SharePoint. So secretly in the background, Teams is just a cover over the top of SharePoint, or Sites, because it's the Office 365 version of SharePoint. And that is important if you want to do anything complicated with Teams. If you want to do anything complicated with Teams, you're actually using SharePoint, which is something important to remember. But for now, basically, you can just forget that. The important thing is you can make documents, but this is probably not very useful and you're probably not going to want to work out of here. All of your users are probably familiar with Standard Explorer inside of Windows. That's File Explorer, not Internet Explorer. So what we can do is click on the Sync button. Now the Sync button is going to use OneDrive to sync stuff down to your computer. So here it's going to ask where on your hard drive you want it to sync those files and folders to. Now it's not necessarily going to sync everything down, so don't panic if you've not got a lot of hard drive space, just follow along. So we can go next here. It's going to walk us through all of the basics of using OneDrive. Open my OneDrive folder. So you can see what it's done here is it's actually added this to the sidebar of File Explorer. So we've got here IT support, which is to do with the tenant name of the example 365 that we've set up. Then we've got that operations team, and then it's got the general channel name, and you can see our test file there, which we made a moment ago. So importantly, let's look at the status column. So you can see here we've got a cloud. So this means that Office 365 and Teams is letting us download this on demand. So it's not actually saved locally on this computer, it's in the cloud. But if I want it, I can double click on it and it will download it and get it for me, as long as I've got an internet connection at that point. So if I double click on test, you see it changes to a green tick and it's now opened up in Word. We can write some text, hit save. I always still hit save, but it's actually going to try and save it for us as we go. And so if I now close that down, you can see the icons change to the syncing icon, which means Office 365 is now sending that back up via OneDrive into SharePoint that's then seen inside Teams. So if we shrink that down and we go to open up our test doc, we can see that it says test here, and that has worked. So you can see the change has gone back up to the cloud, and anybody else that was subscribing to that team shared library would then get that change as well. Now you're probably going to have a lot of files that you've already created, already been working on, and you're going to want to get those into your Teams. Well, fortunately that is pretty simple. So if you just log into Teams and do that sync down to a computer that has got access to those files, you can just simply select all of the files, move them over and paste them in. So this is going to put all of those files into your local OneDrive. You can see it's now synced those all up. The reason they've got the green tick is because they're also locally on the computer. So that's great, apart from what if you've just kind of done this temporarily on a machine, that these were all originally on a network drive on your server, and now you've just filled up all of your hard drive with every single file for your team. So that's no good. So what we can do is come back to the Hero IT Support bit here, and we can right click on our operations general there, and then we can basically free up space. So if we free up the space, it's going to delete everything locally on your computer. Now it's not going to delete it inside the SharePoint library inside Teams. So if we go back inside here now, we can see that they're still there, but they're just online only, so we've got the cloud again. So if we wanted to open one up, for example, we can double click on it, it'll download it, it will become a green tick again, and then we can see this file. So we can close that again. Obviously the good thing about this is that files that you work on all the time, OneDrive is going to cache for you locally on your computer, and files that maybe other people in your teams use a lot more often than you and you rarely use or you haven't used in ages, they're actually still going to be there, still available to you, you can still see them, but they're not going to be taking up space on your computer, which is probably one of the best features of OneDrive. Also, don't forget that Teams is available as a mobile phone application as well. Now typically you might use this when you're traveling around between sites, or if you're a salesperson on the road. Obviously that's not what you're going to be using it for at the moment, but if you are caught away from the computer and just want to stay up to date, you can use your mobile phone to keep up to date with the chat system. You can also use your mobile phone to drop into that video conferencing, and you can access the files as well. Hopefully that was enough to get you and your team started with Microsoft Teams. If you do have any trouble and you are a Hero IT Support customer, then of course you can contact us for any support and tips, and that will be covered as part of your unlimited contract. If you like the look of the remote support software, we're calling it Hero Connect, and to help customers through coronavirus, we're making it available on a simple rolling monthly basis, just £10 per device, and it will let you take control of a machine in your office very easily. If you've got any of your own Teams tips, then please feel free to use the comment section to let other people know about them, and thank you very much for watching.